Official autopsy completed in Nolan Wells investigation. However, the results are not available to the public. The Griot reports on this. When I had the results were in from the autopsy, I was like, finally, we get some answers, at least from the state. But this is not the case. The report will not be released publicly while prosecutors continue investigating the 18-year-old's unaliving. Now, although the report has not been released publicly, this has not prevented the public from speculating on what may have happened to Nolan in light of statements from so-called friends that people feel to not line up. And after Nolan's mother had to demand her son's phone and she suspects that messages may have been erased, this is cause for concern. People have been dissecting interviews and doing their own research. Some of these people may be as good as, if not better than, the authorities that did the initial investigation, in my opinion. Now, this disclaimer because you know people like to sue. This video is for informational purposes only, and therefore everything is allegedly. I also give my opinion. Viewer discretion is advised as this video talks about unaliving a subject matter that may be sensitive to some. Reportedly, the official autopsy in the unaliving of Nolan Wells has been completed by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office. According to state officials, as reported by WLBT3, now many people do not trust Mississippi when it comes to black victims, which is one of the reasons why this case is so controversial in the first place. This country's history on treatment of black people is not the best. Although the autopsy is complete, the findings, however, will not be made public at this time. Instead, the report will be presented to a grand jury as part of the ongoing investigation. Now, this is a far cry from what they first determined, because at first seemed like they ruled it an accident and moved on. But in steps the Nolan's mother and the high-powered attorney Ben Crump, and now reportedly the investigation not only by the family is ongoing, the investigation by Mississippi officials is ongoing as well. My, what a bit of pressure does, and a mother wanting to know what happened to her son. District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath previously said withholding the report follows standard procedure for unaliving investigations in the county. According to the district attorney, nearly every non-natural unaliving is presented to a grand jury before investigative records are released. So it appears they are following protocol, at least in presenting this to a grand jury. However, the family is not leaving this in the hands of local authorities, and I can't say that I blame them. Wells' second autopsy was performed on July 10th by forensic pathologist Dr. Roger Mitchell. The autopsy, paid for by former NFL player Colin Kaepernick, so other people are stepping in and helping with this case. Kaepernick may no longer be in the NFL, where he was a controversial figure. However, he is still active in activism, it appears. However, Dr. Mitchell could not determine the cause or manner of Wells' unaliving for several reasons. Mitchell said he could not examine several parts of Wells' neck because they weren't shipped with his body. Many were appalled when they heard this. However, it appears to be standard practice. He said some of Wells' remains may have been kept by the pathologist who performed his initial autopsy, which is common practice. Mitchell also couldn't examine Wells' lungs for water or the contents of his stomach because they were rightfully removed and dissected as part of the first autopsy. Appears we may have to rely on some of the state's finding, at least for now. Mitchell said several other key pieces of information were needed to make a determination about Wells' cause of unaliving: the toxicology report and more information about how Wells entered the water. One other significant finding that Mitchell said merits further investigation is an area of red discoloration on tissue at the back of Wells' head by the occipital bone. It is important to reiterate that this finding could not have been observed in the first autopsy because the posterior head and neck dissections were not performed, Mitchell wrote. People question why this was not caught on the first autopsy that has not been released yet. Wonder if this will be updated now that Dr. Mitchell has made note of it. The update comes as civil rights attorney Ben Crump and his legal team continue conducting an independent investigation on behalf of Wells' family. And thank goodness for this. We all know there is a two-tier justice system, in my opinion. One for the rich and one for the poor. Also, skin color can play a factor as well, in my opinion. That GoFundMe, if this is what it is being used for, has really helped the family in getting answers. Speaking at the National Urban League Conference in Nashville, Crump said his team is working with oceanic engineering experts to better understand how Wells' body was found where he was last seen. Looks like Crump and team are leaving no stones unturned. Attorney Eric Hertz, who is leading the independent investigation, said the legal team has been in discussions with the Jackson County District Attorney's Office about reviewing evidence together. You better review it, because a lot of things are questionable in this case. The investigation into the unaliving of 18-year-old Nolan Wells, a promising high school football player, has become a focal point of national attention. What initially appeared to be an accidental drowning during a 4th of July boating trip has escalated into a highly scrutinized and controversial case. Now, we still don't know if it was an accidental drowning. Whatever happened to Nolan, we just want to know. Whether it was foul play or accidental, we just want to be in the know. How long do autopsies take? According to USA Today, it is said that standard autopsies can take 2 hours or longer in complicated cases or traumatic unalivings, according to the Mississippi Department of Public Safety. Of course, this not expected to be the final autopsy, as Crump's team is waiting for the release of additional organs, such as in the throat area, to make their determination. So it could be weeks before we get additional details on what happened to Nolan. Preliminary reports are issued to the county medical examiner investigator within a few days, but the availability of final reports varies significantly based on staffing levels, caseload, and case complexity, the department has said. Hopefully, the truth will prevail, which is all we can ask. Although we have questions, the truth is what the family is after, in my opinion. In the end, it will not be what is speculated. It is about what can be proved. Of course, this not expected to be the final autopsy, as Crump's team is waiting for the release of additional organs, such as in the throat area, to make their determination. So it could be weeks before we get additional details on what happened to Nolan. Preliminary reports are issued to the county medical examiner investigator within a few days, but the availability of final reports varies significantly based on staffing levels, caseload, and case complexity, the department has said. Hopefully, the truth will prevail, which is all we can ask. Although we have questions, the truth is what the family is after, in my opinion. In the end, it will not be what is speculated. It is about what can be proved. On another note, it appears people have been threatened on both sides. The mother's team have received threats. A judge, who is the stepmother of one of the reported friends of Nolan in this case, was apparently threatened, and an arrest has been made in the case of this threat against a judge. That is what you cannot do. Go around threatening people with bodily harm. Separately, authorities announced the arrest of a California man accused of making online threats against Chancery Court Judge Ashley Cole, whose family has been connected to the broader investigation. Ashley Cole, a judge in Jackson County, confirmed in a statement that her son was among the youngsters who had been with Wells on the boat trip the day he went missing. Ashley is the stepmother to Warren Hudson. Man charged with threatening Mississippi judge whose son is tied to Nolan Wells' case. Hudson has said that while he and Wells, 18, rowed out together to the island in a group of dozens of people and several boats, Wells later decided to remain behind at the party that afternoon with a young woman. Ashley Cole, a judge in Jackson County, confirmed in a statement that her son was among the youngsters who had been with Wells on the boat trip the day he went missing. Ashley is the stepmother to Warren Hudson. Man charged with threatening Mississippi judge whose son is tied to Nolan Wells' case. Hudson has said that while he and Wells, 18, rowed out together to the island in a group of dozens of people and several boats, Wells later decided to remain behind at the party that afternoon with a young woman. Wells' parents have questioned that account, saying it was out of character for him to stay behind, particularly because he did not have his phone. Hudson and others have said Wells left it behind to keep it out of the ocean. Hudson was the one who first called Wells' mom, Christine Wansley, late on July 4th about him being missing. In a previous social media statement, Cole said Hudson loved Nolan dearly and had been interviewed by the sheriff's department and fully cooperated with investigators. Given the very heightened emotional state of social media right now, I fear for the safety of my child and my children, she said. Earlier this month, Cole said in a Facebook post that she and her family had received numerous unaliving threats on social media, including screenshots of the alleged threats, according to a previous report by the Herald. Wells' parents have also said they've received threats online and in person as they continue pleading for more answers in their son's disappearance and unaliving. She said, "We can't grieve the way we need to because we're being disrespected. We're being called all kind of racist, bad parents. We were not raised like, and we did not raise our children like that. So we just want the truth," Wells' father, Elmore Wansley, said Thursday. "Any parent would want that. Any father would want that. Any mother." So both sides have received threats, which is unfortunate. However, an arrest has been made for the threat against the judge. This, according to ABC News. Joseph Alfredo Vasquez Dumars is accused of threatening Judge Ashley Cole. A California man has been charged with threatening a Mississippi judge whose son is tied to the Nolan Wells case, according to a recently unsealed federal complaint. Joseph Alfredo Vasquez Dumars, 27, allegedly messaged Jackson County Chancery Court Judge Ashley Cole on social media, threatening to send a bombleclot, "You know we have to talk in code on YouTube," to her office that will blow you away when you see it, is what he said. "Once that package is opened, the timer will start, and then you have maybe 10 seconds or less to ask God for forgiveness," the message said, according to a court document filed in federal court. "So much bloodness everywhere, hard to clean, especially from a boat." Now this is more than the law will allow. What was he thinking? Now he may have spent time behind bars. This is not needed. Ben has everything under control. His team has ordered the records from social media companies. This, according to the New York Post. This to piece together what happened to Christine's son. His mom, Christine Wansley, said that when her son's phone was returned to the family, they had concerns after finding no pictures or videos on his 2 Snapchat accounts, calling it suspicious and triggering fears that content may have been deleted. This probably only the beginning. I'm thinking that based on findings of the autopsy and what comes back on Nolan's social media accounts, then potentially the social media accounts of the other people that were with him could also be subpoenaed. But of course, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. We will have to wait and see what the autopsies reveal. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. This probably only the beginning. I'm thinking that based on findings of the autopsy and what comes back on Nolan's social media accounts, then potentially the social media accounts of the other people that were with him could also be subpoenaed. But of course, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. We will have to wait and see what the autopsies reveal. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.